Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and we're going to continue to look at the analog of QQQ when it launched. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, we've talked a lot about the comparison between the launch of the Bitcoin ETF and the parallels with that of the launch of the QQQ. Now, there are some differences as well, and so it's important to recognize those differences. But if you go back and look at when the QQQ launched, it launched at around 48 or so. It then had higher lows in August and October that year, right? So August and October. What you'll notice with Bitcoin, the spot ETF launched here, and then it had higher lows in August and then again in October. Now, the difference is that the QQQ went all the way up to 120, whereas so far Bitcoin only went to 109. But the important thing that I've talked about is that the QQQ hit this top exactly 54 weeks after it launched. And for Bitcoin, 54 weeks after the spot ETF launch, the week of January 8th, happens to be the week of inauguration. We talked a lot about how whether it ends up being a market cycle top, hopefully not, or just a local top, which is at least what it seems to have been so far, that 54-week milestone could be a significant milestone, not just because it's the same as the QQQ, but because it's going into the inauguration. Gary Gensler's resigning. You're getting all this deregulation, so it seems like things can only get better. But a lot of times when things seem like they can only get better, it means the market's pricing in the best thing possible, right? And then it's time to take a step back and see what do we actually get, right? Do we actually get a strategic reserve? And so it makes sense that there's some de-risking, sort of just after that as people wait to see if there's actually going to be a strategic reserve or not. It's kind of the same thing that we've seen many, many times before. There was also a sell-off right after the spot ETF launch as well, right? So, I mean, at this point, it's not even clear that this time is any different than last year. I mean, last year you can see that the market also went down for a few weeks after that milestone, the launch of the spot ETF. Maybe this is just the same thing, right? Where then you pick back up as we get further into February. But we'll continue to follow that. The thing about the QQQ is while it topped on week 54, week 55 was a red week, and then week 56 was a red week. But week 56 had a long wick down. If you look at Bitcoin, kind of seeing something similar, not exactly the same thing, but like there are some similarities, right? You have 1 week and then a second week with sort of a wick down all the way down here to like 91K. It was week 57 that the QQQ had a larger drop, and it dropped all the way down to 63 from around 107. So keep that in mind. I would like for this analog to be over and for us to not need to make this comparison anymore. But until it deviates, it's important to follow it. Also, remember that even if Bitcoin were to drop, it doesn't necessarily mean the cycle has to be over. In fact, in 2017, there was a drop right here around the same time. The market dropped about 35% or so. And where it dropped to happened to be the prior all-time high, or sorry, the prior 2016 high, right? About a 35% drop, tested the 2016 high in June. So, you could have a situation where people think that it's going to play out like the QQQ, but maybe it drops to say 75K or slightly below it back to the high from 2024. That's always a possibility as well. I just want to remind people that this comparison does exist, and I haven't forgotten about it. Some people have asked me about it. I haven't forgotten about it. It still is there. The timing seems similar. It's not exactly the same season, right? When the QQQ got that larger drop, it was in April. We're currently in February, but in terms of timing of after when the ETF launched, this is around the time where you got sort of that final week correction, and then it was sort of like the weeks after that where the market got a nice bounce. So we'll see what happens here. I think in the short term, some of the most concerning things are not really, you know, um, anything specific to Bitcoin. It's mostly just so many people are like falling for all these meme coin scams that usually when that happens, the market goes through a correction, just to help remind us where we need to be, and to help course correct all the bad investment that's going on, the misallocation of resources, misallocation of capital. It happens, and sometimes the market has to punish investors for not focusing on what's important and instead focusing on things that really don't really have any value. So those are my thoughts right now. I mean, I did not want to sort of completely let this comparison go. I know we talked about it back in March of last year. We talked a little bit about it in November and December, and I just wanted to bring it up again in case it follows suit. But I would say even if there is a drop, you also still have the bull market support band that could provide support. If it goes down to 75K, it's still theoretically no different than what we saw in 2017. The only place I think it would become concerning is if it were to drop into the low 60s, right? If it were to like drop back down to this, that would get a little concerning, because then that would be mimicking QQQ, right? The QQQ dropped all the way down to the low 60s, and you don't really want to see that happen. That would make me think it's more likely to be a left translated cycle. But if it stays above, say, 73K, 74, 75K, then I think you're still, potentially in that right translated cycle territory. Anyways, guys, we're going to keep this one short. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and again, check out the sale on Into the Cryptoverse Premium at intothecryptoverse.com. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.